Okay. So for today's workshop, if you remember in the last workshop, we did cover a little bit about agile methodology and waterfall methodology. So in today's workshop, we are going to cover a few more examples about waterfall and agile methodology, and hopefully that will help you to understand the difference between these two approaches better. And also towards the end, so we have 6 activities, and towards the end, as usual, we have some true and false statement. And also, you guys might be aware that from this week onwards, the workshop sessions are going to be for 3 hours. So in the first 2 hours, we are going to cover the content for each week. And the last 1 hour is the consultation session. So if you have any question regarding any of the workshop content that we have covered so far, then I'll be here in this same channel. You can just pop in back. So I'll give you some break for like 10-15 minutes. And then you can come back and ask me any question if you have any regarding the workshop contents. All right, so let's begin today's workshop. The first 2 examples are a little bit about how the duration of the project is going to change when the working hours changes. So the approach to both these 2 examples that we have here are very simple. It's just normal unitary method that we learned during primary school. Yeah, anyways, I will explain in more details about that. All right, so let's have a look at the first example. So the first question says that assume your team of engineers are awarded a contract to install a false ceiling and secondary roofing system for a 3-story university building. So we have some task in our hand, and you need to work closely with the building facility team on this project. So just some background information about the job that we have in our hand. So this is the important bit. So initially, you planned for 7 hours per day. So that is the working hours was 7 working hours per day. However, the facility management told you that 6 hours per day would be more realistic. So how would you adjust your schedule for the shortened work duration imposed by the management? So here the situation is that initially we planned that the working hours is going to be 7 hours per day, and the duration of the project or the duration of the task was fixed according to this working hour. But there are some changes made by the facility management, and they, instead of 7 hours per day, they want us to work only for 6 hours per day. The question is, how is this going to impact the duration of the task? Or in other words, so obviously when we have shortened working hours per day, the overall duration of the task is going to increase, right? So the question is, how much is the duration going to increase? So you can give me a percentage. So can you guys like use the unitary method and try to answer this question? So if 7 days requires 1 day, sorry, if 7 hours requires 1 day to the work, how many days will it require to finish the work in 6 hours? Very simple. But I want you guys to think about it a little bit. Anyone? If 7 hours need 1 day to finish, then 6 hours, how many days? It's 7 divided by 6, right? 1.16 days, or we can say there will be 16% increase in the duration of the project. So whatever duration will be given to you, just increase the duration by 16%, and that will give you the new duration. Is it clear, or is there any confusion regarding the first question? A yes or no will be appreciated. I feel like I'm talking to a wall at the moment. Are you guys there? Guys, is it clear? Yes or no? Or do you want me to repeat? Because I don't want to move forward if this is not clear. All right, thanks, Alan. Okay, so here we have seen that the duration will be increased by, so in order to find that percentage, just divide by just 7 divided by 6 will give you the new day duration, which is 1.16 days. Or in other words, there has been a 16% increase in the duration, right? Because of this less working hour. So if in this question, say total duration of 10 days was given, the initial duration was 10 days, then the new duration can be just increase so it will be 11.6, right? So the second question, I want you guys to do this. So it's very similar to the first question, just there are some additional information. So just try to grab the additional information and try to simplify it and find the solution to this. I'm going to quickly read out the question. The facility management needs to assign 2 technicians during the installation of the roofing system. The initial installation estimate was 2 weeks, effective 6 hours a day. So what is happening here? Why is the total working hours 60 hours? It is because of the, sorry, just give me a second. Let me take out my pen. So you can take out a pen and paper if you want, and you can actually try to simplify this. If you write down things, then it's more easy to grasp. Okay, so we have 2 weeks in, so we have two scenarios here. So we are looking at scenario 1 at the moment. So in scenario 1, the duration was 2 weeks, but out of this 2 weeks, there are only 10 days, 10 working days. That's why if 6 hours is dedicated per day, the total working hour is coming to 60 hours because weekends are not considered. So only 5 working days per week is considered. So in 2 weeks, the total duration is going to be 10 days, and 6 hours per day is going to be 60 hours in total, right? So we know that the 60 hours or 10 days is our scenario 1 duration. But what happens is, okay, so the technicians assigned to your project proposes an alternative approach. So the workers, they have an alternative approach to the working hours. The technician will work on the weekends and evenings to earn overtime pay, but they can finish the job sooner. How might you adjust the installation if the technicians plan to work full days, that is 8 hours, on the weekends and 2 hours on the weekday? So in scenario 2, which the technicians has proposed, they're saying that instead of working for 2 weeks with only 6 hours of working day, 6 hours of 6 working hours per day during the weekdays, the alternative scenario is they're going to work for even during the weekends, and on the weekdays as well, they're going to work extra 2 hours. So in total, they are to work during the weekdays and the weekends for 8 hours per day, right? So we have to find a new duration now. So again, very simple. Can you guys come up with a what will be the new duration? So of course, just looking at the question, we can see that if initially the workers were working only 6 hours per day, and in the new approach, they're going to work for 8 hours. So of course, the duration is going to be shorter, right? If we are giving more working hours per day, the duration will be shorter. So can you guys find what will be the new duration? It's very similar to the previous approach, just unitary method. 6 hours will require 10 days. So how many days will 8 hours require? I want you guys to solve this. I'll give you a few minutes to think about it. I almost gave out the answer. So just use the thanks, Ellen. Yeah. So it's 7.5 days, right? So just use the unitary method if you get questions like this. All right. Any question? Is anyone still confused how we got the 7.5 days number? Okay. If I don't get any response, oh, what is the unitary method? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure if the name of the method is same in Australia, but is how I learned during my primary exam. So unitary method is basically, so say for example, here we have, so 6 hours will require 10 days. So the next step will be how many days will be required for 1 hour. So 1 hour will require 10 by 6 days, right? So 7 hour will require 10 by 6 into 7. So that's why it is called unitary method, because you can either skip the middle step, but ideally what I like to do is I always convert it to first 1 hour and then just multiply with whatever hour I require to convert. So that's why it's called unitary method, because we first find it for a unit of the number. So but anyways, it's not important what the name of the method is. If you get the concept, then it's good. All right, so there is another part to the question. So apart from the duration, so as a project manager, so when the technicians are proposing an alternative method, of course, the first step is to see how it is going to affect the duration of the project, which we have already done. And then also, apart from the duration, we have to consider some other factors before approving or denying the alternative proposal. So can you guys tell me what other factors will be considered by the project manager before approving this alternative plan by the technicians? Again, I'll give you some time, and I would really appreciate if you guys can participate in the discussion, because the workshop sessions are conducted in such a way that um, the discussions or participations from the students are expected. I'm not supposed to just give out only answers. Okay, so I'll give you some time. I hope that you guys can give me some answers to this. So just the duration and that's it, and approve the plan. Okay, yes, Alan, regulations like, yes, noise may not permit work after hours or on weekends. Very good point, Alan. So since according to the alternative plan that the technicians has proposed, they want to work even during the weekends and also overtime during the weekdays. So again, yes, we have to make sure that there is no disturbances to the neighboring, areas because of this project. So that is something that we have to keep in mind. And apart from this, can you guys think in terms of monetary point of view? So so during the weekends and for overtime? Yes, Mohammed. So budget to pay overtime rate. So if the technicians are working during the weekends and also overtime during the weekdays, then we might have to pay them, compensate them a little extra money for that. So that is something that the project manager will consider as well. Um, Anything else? So that's it. So yeah, those two are the most important factor that the project manager will consider while looking into a proposal like this. So usually what happens in project is that until and unless there is an absolute necessity to finish the project in a very short period of time, until and unless there is a very crunch in the time, usually the workers are not supposed to work during the weekends or hours, because it is just for shortening the duration, say in this case for 2.5 days, we might the financial consequences for that might be hefty. So until and unless it is absolutely necessary or there is some deadline that we have to meet, usually the project manager won't go for this kind of proposal. That is something to keep in mind. All right. So if the first question is clear, let's move on to the next one. So the second question that we have here, hopefully, so we have two scenarios which I'm going to read out. Hopefully this example will help you to understand the difference between agile and waterfall methodology a little bit clearer. Okay, so let's have a look at the question. So you lead a team of interior architects who are experts. So this is a little bit of just background information anyways. So you lead a team of interior architects who are experts in lighting, acoustic, furniture, and other interior fixtures for high-end construction projects. Okay, so your company has been appointed to carry out an interior architecture project for a mixed development that is commercial and residential spaces. The client is a renowned developer who has allotted 6 months to carry out all the interior tasks for the mentioned development. So these two are the important bits. So we have two scenarios here. So you know a bit of a background of the project, and we have two scenarios here. So for these two scenarios, you have to identify where you are going to use the waterfall methodology and in which one you're going to use the agile methodology. Okay, so let's look at the two scenarios. So in scenario one, the client is unsure about the type and design of lightings to be installed in the residential spaces. So first thing, the information that is needed, so the design specification of the lightings that is needed in the residential space are not quite clear at the moment. So he is also not sure about the lighting intensity and distribution that will be most suitable. Okay, the client can only spend 1 to 2 hours of discussion each week, and sufficient technical skills are available with your current team. You suggest agile methodology or waterfall methodology for this scenario. Justify with reasoning. So, so in the first scenario, a couple of things to keep in mind. So firstly, the design specification are not quite clear to the client. They are not quite sure what kind of design specification they need at this point of time. And secondly, they can spend some hours to discuss with your team regarding the requirements for the lighting system. So these two are the key points to be noted here. Now let's have a look at scenario two so that we can see the contrast between these two scenarios. So in scenario two, the client was initially unsure. Okay, in scenario two, the client was initially unsure about the lighting and the wall fixture requirements. However, after prolonged discussion and based on information in catalogs, the client has arrived at a fixed set of design, number, and brand of lighting and fixtures. So I'll get back to the question, Emiliano, just a second. So first contrast that you can see between these two scenarios are, in the first scenario, the client has still not come up with any finalization about the design requirement. While in scenario two, they did some prolonged discussions, some research, and they are pretty sure about what kind of design requirements are needed. So that's the first contrast that you can see between these two scenarios. So which methodology, agile or waterfall, would be suitable for this kind of projects? Justify the reason. Okay, so in scenario one, things are not quite clear. In scenario two, things are quite clear about the requirements of the client. So okay, so question from Emiliano, can you please remind what the agile methodology is? Okay, so in the last workshop, we did discuss a little bit about agile and waterfall. So I'll give you an example to highlight the differences between these two methods, okay? Um, yes, Mohammed, I'll get back to that. So just for anyone who need a quick recap of agile and waterfall, so let's take an example of software development. So say you have a project in your hand where you need to develop a new software package. Now we know that this industry is a very competitive industry, and the changes and the demand of the customer is changing every day. So it's not very easy to fix at the beginning of developing the software what is required. So in this case, it's an iterative process. So there will be constant meeting the client and the software developer, and according to the changing demand of the market, they will have this rigorous iterative process of discussion, going back to the design, again discussion and going back to the design. So this is known as agile methodology, where things are not quite fixed and where very frequent meetings is required between the client and the team who is working on it. On the other hand, say we have a project of constructing a bridge. So you can imagine, so once you go out to the site to construct a bridge, and if you're not quite sure about the design, it's going to be a problem, right? So you need to have the designs of the bridge fixed right at the beginning, and once you go to the site, you just go on constructing the bridge without any interruption. And this is known as waterfall methodology, or like a more traditional approach to project management. So that's the difference between the two approaches. Is it clear, Emiliano? All right, great. So now do you guys agree with Mohammed that the first one is agile and the second one is waterfall? Do you guys agree with this answer? Yes, okay, sure. So so why is scenario one agile? So in scenario one, first of all, we know that things are not quite clear. The clients are not quite sure about their requirements, and also they have some time to spare for the discussion, right? So in scenario one, agile is recommended because the client is unsure about the quality and design of the lighting features that is required. So there is a scope for sufficient changes during the entire process of the project. So therefore, in the first scenario, agile is recommended. Okay. While in scenario two, we can see that things are quite fixed right at the beginning. So here we can say that the client well understood the requirements of the project. So we can assume that the number of changes that are going to take place in the project is going to be very limited. So in this case, it's not very critical to have constant meetings with the client. So in the second scenario, a waterfall approach is more suitable. Is it clear? Yes, no? Okay, great. All right, so question number two done. Now let's move on to, again, we have few more examples about the agile and waterfall. So if there is still some doubt in your mind, don't worry, we are going to practice some more about this concept. Okay, question number three. Um, Suppose your team is following an agile methodology for installation of interior lighting system. So the scenario one situation we have here. What would be your main discussion points? There is the meeting agenda during adapt stage for two situation for your team review and meeting between customer and your team. All right, so what is the adapt stage in the agile methodology? So adapt stage is basically that stage where you gather feedback from the team or from the customer in order to improve the entire process of the project. Okay, so that's what this adapt stage is about. So just hang on. I actually did Google about the adapt stage in agile methodology, and I did, yeah. So I'm just reading out what I found from one of the papers about this. In the adapt phase, the agile team reviews the result of execution, the current situation, and performance of the team against the plan. So just basically reviewing your process and getting some feedback about the process. Okay. So for this, I'm going to show you the templates of how the meeting agenda will look like. So I think for this bit, instead of just discussing, I'll just show you the sample template that we have. And if in your exam questions like this come, then hopefully you can just use it. Okay, just hang on. All right, here it is. Okay, so the first part was the meeting agenda for discussion within your team. So so the first, okay, so this is the sample team review agenda. So if you are a project manager and or Scrum Master in this case, so if you have to conduct a meeting within your team, then this is how a template of the meeting agenda will look like. So first of all, you have to state the purpose of the team. So the purpose, as we know, the purpose of this adapt stage is to review the current iteration. Current iteration is basically current work packages. So as I told you, in agile methodology, the entire processes are iterative. That means there will be to and fro discussion between the client and the team members, and then what is expected from the client and how the design is going to look like. So it's an iterative process. So review the current iteration means review the current work that has been done, and then share lessons learned between the team members. They are going to share their experiences, their obstacles that they face, and how they overcome it, and identify changes for future iterations. That means future work packages. So identify, so from the lesson that has been learned from the past, so how can we do things better in the future? So all of this are going to be discussed in the meeting. So there is the purpose of the meeting. And then this is how, so again, remember, this is just a sample. So this is how typically a meeting agenda in an agile adapt stage will look like. So first of all, 5 minutes is dedicated to welcome and confirm the meeting purpose so that everyone is aware of why we are conducting a meeting. And then 5 minutes to review actual results to plan. So what is the meaning of this? Actual results to plan means how much of what has been planned could be achieved or could be executed. So just review that how our work is progressing compared to what has been planned. So 5 minutes is dedicated to that. And then discuss what worked, what didn't work, and what could be done better. So pretty self-explanatory, right? So what worked, what didn't work, and if there was any obstacles, how did we overcome that, and how can we make sure that in future things can be done better. So 15 minutes is dedicated to that. And brainstorm ways to improve future results. Again, carrying forward from this point, if there were any obstacles, how can we do things better in the future? So just brainstorm about that. And then agree on changes for future iterations. Now, based on what has been discussed, some modifications can be made to future work packages to make sure that things are smoother in the future. So 10 minutes is dedicated to that. And finally, just close down the meeting. So this is how typically a meeting agenda will look like if the meeting is between your team members. Okay, so there are just some additional points here that is included. So in daily agile meetings, so if this meeting is on daily basis, so what are the few points that you can that you need to make sure are discussed as team meetings? So just track feature progress, identify reason for late progress, log issues. If necessary, keep the meeting moving. That means the time can be extended. Remove obstacles so the team can focus on work, notify stakeholders of progress. So just few more points. It's pretty straightforward. I hope that I don't think I need to explain much on this. All right, so in the second situation, so this was the scenario for if the meeting is within your team. Now, if the meeting is between the customer and the team members, then how the meeting agenda will look like. It's pretty similar, just a few tweaks here and there. So first, again, state the purpose of the meeting. So review the current iteration, that means review the current work progress, and then review the business environment. That means, so here we are talking about, if you remember the brief, we are talking about lighting installation, right? Light has been already installed and we are getting some feedback from the customer. So that is what this meeting is about. So review the business environment. That means review how the performances in this case of the lighting is, if the customers are satisfied with the performance or not, if it is performing as expected or not. And then identify changes for future works, so future iterations. So all of this are going to be discussed in the meeting. All right, so the meeting agenda will look something like this. Again, 5 minutes dedicated to come and confirm the meeting purpose. Yes. And then 5 minutes, again, review actual results to plan, similar to what we did in the other team meeting. And then, okay, these are some of the additional points. So are features performing the way they should? So obviously, when we were executing the project, there were some expectation from of the outcome of the project. So now we are going to get the feedback from the customers if the light fixtures in this case are performing the way they should, right? If the brightness is enough, and all of those, and the other functions if there are. And then next is, are features delivering business benefit? Now, of course, almost all the projects in this world are executed to get some kind of business benefit. So in our case, in this situation, the lighting situation, the business benefit might be a reduction in the energy bill due to installation of some clever lighting system. So we want to get feedback from the customer if they have seen reduction in the energy bill. So that can be one of the discussions here. So similarly, for other type of project, we are going to discuss with the customer if they are reaping the benefit of what was expected from the project. And has the business environment changed? Now again, say for example, initially the lightings were made on a floor for commercial purpose, but later on it might be so that the area will be converted into a residential floor. So in this case, the business environment has changed, and also the lighting obviously will have to be changed. So is there any changes in the business environment? That is also going to be discussed here. So, and last but not the least, any changes for future iterations, features, priority, risk. So now from all of this discussion, the idea is to get feedback from the customer so that the future work can be improved. So now from all as an outcome of all this discussion, do we need to make any changes to the future work? So that will be the final closing topic. And finally, when all of this has been finished, we just close the meeting. So this is how the meeting agenda in a agile methodology will look like. Any question regarding this? Yes, no? All right. Okay, thanks, Emiliano. And for the rest of you with no responses, I will just assume that things are clear. All right. So what now? Okay, so we just did question number 3. Yes. So now let's move on to question number 4. So question number 4. Okay. So yes, so it's okay. I think this question again, this is about agile waterfall methodology. This will help you to understand better, I guess, the concept of agile and waterfall. So here is a little bit of a background information. I'm going to quickly go through it, but the important bit is given in a table. Nonetheless, let's have a look at what the question says. So consider that you are the project manager of a team consisting of experts in architectural designs, mechanical design, structural engineering, and instrumentation. Your company has received a contract for structural, architectural, and mechanical design for retrofitting a 10-story development, 6 residential and 4 commercial floors, with an annex or additional car park. Depending on different areas of the development, the management and the client's facility management office can have different levels of commitment to help your team in regards to information and any necessary clarification. So what we know from here that you are a project manager and you have a team of engineers of different expertise, and you have to come up, and the project that you have in hand is a mixed development type of project with 6 residential floors and 4 commercial floors. And for this different areas of development for this mixed development is given here. So for this particular project, you will have, since it's a mixed development, you have a car park, you will have restaurants, you will have residential floors. So all of the different areas are given in the table. And also, some other things are given in the table. I'll just read out here. The following table lists the availability of client team to help your team with the project. Now we know that in order to be agile or waterfall, one of the important things to consider is how much a client can dedicate time to your project. We know that for agile methodology, one of the important requirement is to have frequent meetings with the client, right? So if the client are not available for discussion, then you cannot have agile methodology. You will have to follow waterfall methodology. So one of the important thing to consider in this table is to see how much time the client can dedicate to different areas of development, and that is pretty much going to define if the project is going to be agile or waterfall. Okay. Apart from that, there are some other stuff given. So okay, so first is how much the client can dedicate time to different areas of development and the status of agreement on technical aspects. Now, if the technical details has been sorted out or not. So again, this table says that. And what else? Also, status for overall information. So these are other 2 factors that are given in the table as well. So how much of the technical specification has been sorted out and how much of the overall information is understood. So this is also given in the table. So now for each area, the methodology for project management can either be agile with some considerations, that means agile but with some exceptions, and waterfall. So indicate suitability of management indicate suitability of management type for installation in each area, justify with reasoning. Now by looking into these different areas of development and by looking into different fields or different information that has been given regarding these various areas of development, you have to identify whether you are going to employ agile with some consideration or waterfall methodology for each of this. Okay. Again, I want your participation in doing this, and this is also very, very important from your examination point of view. Typically, this kind of questions, I believe, will come in your quiz. Say the situation is given to you, and you have to identify which methodology you're going to employ. Okay, so let's do this together. Okay, so the first situation is the area of development is luxury suites in the residential floors. So this is the information, these are the information provided to you regarding this. So first thing first, the most important one is how much the client can dedicate time to this. So it says that the client is available to assist for 2 to 4 hour sessions scheduled 2 weeks in advance. So the client is not available readily for discussion, but you can have some discussion. You have to, but in order to have the discussion for 2 to 4 hours, you have to schedule the meeting 2 hours prior. So, and also on top of that, there are some other information given. That means the technical specification are pretty much sorted out. It is relatively understood and relatively stable, and the status is the technical aspects has been agreed upon. Um, Waterfall, yes, waterfall, right? Is there anyone who doesn't agree with this, or who don't quite understand why this is waterfall? Okay, so it seems like everyone agree that this is waterfall. Um, okay, great. So yep, so this is waterfall, and if you have to give an explanation, you can give an explanation in such a way that you can write that given that the business skills are not, oh sorry, yeah. So given that the business skills are not available on regular basis, that means the client is not available on regular basis to participate on the agile team. Therefore, agile is not recommended here. So the first thing in order project for to be agile is that the client will have to be readily available. Okay, right, very good. So the rest of it, I won't go into that much detail. I think you can just also, yes, also the technical aspects are pretty much agreed upon. So everything is sorted. So that is also another factor why agile is suitable for this. Good. All right, so the second area of development is community spaces. And in here, we can see that the client is available to dedicate to the project. Technical status is agreed upon, but there are some uncertainties with installation and integration. So agile or waterfall? Agile. Yeah. Um, so this is agile because all skills are available. Yes, all skills are available, and alternative could be discussed, modified, and implemented by the agile team to explore the possibilities. Right. So even if there are some uncertainties, you can have agile um, methodology, and you can sort out this. Okay. So the third one is roof garden area. So again, in here, the client is only available for 2 to 4 hours with uh, prior scheduling, and then there are also some stuff that are not quite agreed upon. Um, the status of the technical aspects are unconfirmed by the management, but the overall information is understood and relatively stable. So what it means to say here is, first of all, the client is not readily available, and the overall information is relatively well understood. Now, there are some technical aspects that are not quite clear, but just for the thing, it is going to be agile or waterfall. Yes, waterfall. Because most importantly, if the approach is going to be agile, the client will have to be available, readily available. So in here, although there are some unconfirmed um, there also some of the technical aspects are unconfirmed that can be sorted out with this small window of time that is available from the client, but overall it will be waterfall because they don't have a lot of time to dedicate to this. All right, next is car park. So in here it says that the client is available to dedicate to the project, but and also more work need to be done to reach a confirmed requirement. um, yes, unconfirmed by the management. So yeah, so there are some technical aspects that are unconfirmed by the management. So here you can, in this situation, you can give agile with some consideration, because of course this is going to be agile because the client has a lot of time to dedicate, but there are some technical aspects that are needed to be sorted out, and once that has been sorted out, um, you can of course carry on the project. So in this situation you can give agile with some consideration. Okay, the next one is restaurant and kitchen areas. Again, similarly, the client has time to dedicate. Yes, so similarly here, it can be agile with some consideration because the client has time to dedicate, so it is going to be agile, and some of the technical aspects need to be confirmed. So there are some considerations regarding this. All right, there are, yes, I believe two more. So next is office spaces in the commercial floors. Again, here available to dedicate to the project. The client has time. Would the previous one be waterfall too? Okay, let me go back. Here, waterfall. I would say it's better to be agile in this, because if the client is willing to dedicate time to this, I guess it is better to just use the agile methodology, because if you're talking about the design of car parking or restaurants and kitchen, there can be some changes that the client want in the design phase. Because we're talking about a design phase here, I think it's better to have frequent meeting with the client if they are willing to dedicate time to this, right? Okay. I would say if in your exam any such question come, the pattern that I have seen in this kind of question is that the most important factor, whether the methodology is going to be agile or waterfall, is to look into the availability of the client. So if the client is available, dedicate time to the project, I would say take advantage of that and go for the agile methodology, right? Okay. Okay, coming back to office spaces and the commercial floor, again, available, the client is available to dedicate to the project, and rest is technical aspects are well understood, the information is well understood and relatively stable. So again, similar questions. So the client has time available to dedicate to this, so agile, yes. Um, okay, last one, retail stores and a commercial floors. Again, the time available is limited, and although there need to be some work that has to be worked out, but the time is limited. So what is going to be this? Waterfall, right? All right, so I hope that this helped you to understand a concept better. The differences between agile and waterfall methodology. All right, any question regarding this or anything that we have discussed so far? When do you use agile with consideration? Yes, Alan. So you use agile with some consideration. So mainly this kind of question, if it comes in your exam, to like, if you see the question, it says justify with reasoning. So you can use agile with some consideration in the situation of car park and restaurant kitchen. In both of this situation, you can see that the client has time available to dedicate to these two areas of development. So it is going to be agile, but there are some technical aspects that are unconfirmed. So this can be agile with some consideration when the technical details are not quite worked out. Okay. So in this situation, it can be agile with some consideration. Is it clear, Alan? Wouldn't it just be agile? Oh, sorry, what do you mean? You mean why is it agile with consideration, not just agile? Yeah, in agile, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Do you mind if I get back to the lecturer because even I thought that this would be just agile, but I'm not quite sure why this is agile with some consideration. But in the solution, you will see that this is agile with some consideration. I mean, I get your point, because the whole point of having agile methodology is to sort out this kind of technical details, right? So why isn't it just agile, and why is it agile with some consideration? That's a good question. If you don't mind, I'll just email the lecturer so that I can give you a good answer to this. Sorry about that. Yeah, and I'll get back to you. Maybe I can just email it to you guys, or maybe I can just put it up on Moodle so that everyone can see the solution, justification to this. All right. Let's move on to the next question. All right, over here, question number 5. So you are aware of increasing, okay, this is a very subjective kind of question that we have. So you're aware of increasing tensions between your project team and the vendor team members who supply expertise and facilities for the retrofitting mentioned in question number 4. The conflict between the teams led to missing of deadlines for delivering specification that delayed design task assigned to your team. This missed deadline will impact your project deadline because there is little scheduling slack. Slack means that extra time allotted in this part of your schedule. As a result, you need to intervene. What actions should you take to address this team relationship problem? So what is happening here is that your team is having some tension, some conflict with the vendor team, and because of which there is some delay in the supplies. So as a project manager, how would you intervene in this situation, and how would you take control of the situation? So the question is to you guys. I hope that um, you can give a good answer to this. So as a project manager, how would you take control of the situation? I'll give you some time to think about it. By the way, sorry, Alan, about your previous question, I think yeah, I think I have an explanation to why this is agile with some consideration, okay? In agile, sorry, sorry for going back to this, but this explanation just came to me. So in agile, what we do is, so we have a large project, so we are dividing this large project into different work packages. And each of these work packages, sorry, Amelia, and I'll get back to that. So just going back to the question that Alan had, that why is this agile with some consideration? So in case of car parks and restaurants, so I think this is agile with some consideration because in agile, what we do is all the a large work is broken down into smaller work packages, and each of the smaller work packages is considered as Scrum, if you remember what you learned in your lecture. So each of these are treated as separate work packages. That means independent work packages. So in case of car parks and restaurants, since the technical aspects are not quite clear at this point of time, so it at this point of time, it is not quite clear that whether this two areas of development can be treated as independent work packages. So before we confirm that this can be treated as agile, this can be agile methodology can be employed to this too. We have to look into the technical aspects, and we have to make sure that these two areas doesn't have any connection with the other areas of development. Okay, so by working out the technical details, you have to first confirm that these two areas of development can be treated independently as independent work packages. And only if that is confirmed, then you can employ agile methodology to these two work areas. Does it help a little bit, Ellen, or is it still confusing? So what I to say is a confirmation on the requirements is needed A little. So what I mean to say here is that you have to first make sure a confirmation is required. These two particular work areas, the technical details of these two particular work areas doesn't have any influence on the other work areas in the project. And if it doesn't have any influence on the other work areas, then you can treat this as independent work packages and you can employ agile methodology. For example, say we have the car parking, and on top of the car parking you might have, say, a community space. Now it might be possible that you cannot treat this car parking separately, that you might have to do the construction of this or the design of this, and this might be connected. So in this case, if this is employing waterfall methodology, then you might also have to employ waterfall methodology here, because since it's like it's a homogeneous development. But if you can confirm after working out the technicalities that these two areas doesn't have any technical influence on other work areas, then you can employ agile methodology. So therefore, for both these work areas where the technical details are not confirmed, it will be agile with some consideration. It means agile, but you have to confirm that they are independent. I hope that helps a little, but again, I will surely talk to Sauradeep. I think Ali is teaching this part, right? Can you guys tell me if it is Ali or Sauradeep so that I can send an email to the right person? Who is covering this agile waterfall part? Is it Ali Kasani or Sauradeep? It's Ali. Okay, thanks, Kain and Emily. And okay, I'll send an email to Ali, and I hope that he will be able to provide a better explanation to this. But yeah. All right. So sorry, moving on to this part, this question. So let me quickly repeat the question. So you see that you are a project manager and you see that your team is having some beef or some conflict with the vendor, and due to this, there is some delays in the delivery. So as a project manager, what actions should you take to address this problem? Emiliano says team meeting to understand what is really happening. Yes, and act on that. Yes, exactly. So you need to conduct a team meeting where both the team, project team, as well as the vendor is present, and then as a team project manager, your job is to understand what is the root cause of this tension and try to resolve that issue. And also, apart from that, you also have to make both the teams aware of what consequences sorry, I'll get back to this. So what kind of consequences this conflict is having on the project? So in terms of budget and in terms of the schedule of the project. So I think the most important bit here is to make them understand of how this missing deadlines is having an impact on the overall duration of the project, and due to this delay in the project, what kind of financial consequences is it going to have? Emiliana says, create a flow of help me, help you. Could you explain, Emiliana? I'm not quite sure what this is. I've never heard of this before. Is it
You listen to me.
yeah, sure, yeah.
So what I think is that if we explain some vendors about the problems that create missing the deadlines,
Mm-hmm.
some of them they might not even care. Like
Right.
it doesn't affect them, they will still charge for their services.
Mm-hmm.
We maybe if we approach to them in a way that if you help me helping you, we
Mm-hmm.
come up in a win-win situation for everyone.
Right. Okay.
That's
Yeah,
why
that's a good point. Okay. Thanks, Emiliano. Yes, I think that's a good point. So also try to, or in other words, what I think Emiliano is trying to say is, apart from just telling what problems we are facing because of the situation, also try to make also try to show the vendors what benefit that they can have by getting things back to normal. For example, you can also say that if if things get back to uh, if things get better, then maybe you can recommend the vendor to some other, you know, other project teams, and also you can also try to show them the brighter side of doing things smoothly. Or you can also tell the vendor that we can provide you testimony for, for being a good vendor, for being a good supplier and stuff like that. But yeah, so of course the meeting part is very, very important. So a meeting where all of both the teams are sitting together, resolve the issues, and and also make them understand about the consequences of how consequences in terms of the duration and the cost of the project, and also try to understand the root cause of these obstacles, and make sure that you come up with some solutions so that this kind of situation is not does not take in the future. So this is a very, I would say, mm, general discussion kind of question. Okay, the next question is question number 6. The structural engineering team mentioned in question 4 has proposed a solution to one of the more challenges. So question number 4, okay, over here. So we are talking about the big construction project, the mixed development project. So the structural engineering team of this mixed development project has proposed a solution to one of the more challenging design features that requires a relatively new structural system that the building contractor offers. So what is happening here? Okay, let me just read out the whole thing. You want to make sure that a team is focusing on solving the business problem and not trying to deploy a technical tool just because it is available. How might you assess whether the team is truly focusing on solving the business problem? So the question says that you have your structural engineering team for your project, and they want to use a fancy tool to solve some kind of structural challenge. And as a project manager, you want to make sure that they are using this technical tool because it is absolutely necessary, not because it is just available. So as a project manager, how are you going to assess whether this technical tool that they are going to employ is absolutely necessary for the situation? So in other words, what it is trying to say here, that as a project manager, you might have the power to allocate fund or resources to various teams within your within the team, to various members within your team. So as a project manager, whenever a team member or a team leader is asking for some resources, you don't just give it out. As a project manager, you have to make sure that you're making informed decision while you are giving them the resources that they're asking for. So an example for this would be, say the structural team is asking some fund to buy, to purchase a fancy software package. And the reason that they are asking for this is maybe they are saying that this is absolutely necessary to design the buildings better. So as a project manager, you are going to assess the situation. You are going to see if this software package is absolutely necessary for the structural design team. So here the question is, how might you assess whether the team is truly focusing on solving the business problem? So do you have any suggestion on what actions the project manager might take before giving out the resources to the team? What if the project manager doesn't have any background on the on technical skills? Ellen says, ask the team for different options and pros and cons. Yes, Ellen, absolutely. So first of all, of course, the project manager will look into how this new how this new tool is going to, first of all, what kind of challenge uh, the structural engineering team is facing, and how this technical tool is going to help them, or how this technical tool is going to change the scope of the project. And then we also want to make sure that we are getting the best alternative that is available. So of course, we'll ask the team for different options and different pros and cons. We might also want to look into how it is going to affect the scope of the project, duration of the project, and even the cost will also be important. So what kind of different technical tools are available, how they price compare to each other, and whether we are getting the best value for the price. Apart from that, also the project manager might also take some second opinion from some other expert to make sure that this is a legitimate request, right? Anything else? So let me just read out what, okay, sorry, budget, yes. Mohammed, so we already covered about the price part. So we also want to make sure how we also compare the price of different technical tools available, and also, yes, how it is going to affect the overall budget of the project. So I'm just pulling out the solution here, and I'm just trying to see if we didn't cover anything. So let me just quickly read out what is provided as a solution for this. So it says that as a project manager, you should consider asking the lead member from the contract team how the solution addresses the business problem. Yes, we already talked about this. So even if the project manager is not quite an expert on this, but even then he'll try to understand how this technical tool will provide a solution to the problem. And you might also ask about the cost and likely impact this new system on the project schedule. So we already talked about the cost part and the schedule part. So whenever you get any kind of this kind of question in your exam, always think in terms of time and the budget. So how is this going to have an impact on the time and the cost and the budget of the project? So that is something that we have to um, keep in mind. And concurrently, also explore the solution with your engineering team to determine whether it is appropriate. Again, we already discussed about this. So we want to explore different options that are available, and we want to make sure that we are getting the best value for money. All right. What else? Ellen says, see if the client is even willing to pay for it. Yes, absolutely. So, whoever is allocating the budget to your project, you have to make sure that they are willing to take up this additional cost. All right. So those are all the points, and we covered almost all of this in the discussion. All right. So now the last part of today's workshop, I think almost we're going to finish it quite early. And I think today's true and false statements are not very tricky, very straightforward, more common sense kind of question. Anyways, so let's have a look at the true and false statements. And I would like you to type in T or F if it is true or false. All right, the first statement that we have here is the structural engineering team would like to discuss with the project manager on some technical issues related to transport and lifting of prefabricated walls on site. For this discussion session, it would be a good idea to invite all the team members, including structural engineering, mechanical engineers, architects, and electrical engineers. What do you think, true or false? There is some, yes. Anyone else willing to give it a try? True, false? False, yes. This is a false statement because the concern that we have is related just to the structural engineering team, and it is absolutely unnecessary to include all of these different engineers from different fields. It will be just a waste of time. So this is a false statement. Okay, this one is a bit funny. A project manager has a scheduled meeting with the structural engineering team from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Thursday. However, due to his involvement in another meeting before that, he found that he would be late by 15 minutes for his meeting at 2 p.m. Since it is just 15 minutes, it is a good idea not to inform the structural team and show up at the meeting at 2:10 p.m. Who think this is a true statement? Right. False, right? Because one of the most important trait that we look for in a project manager is punctuality, and it is completely understandable if he or she got stuck in some other meeting, but it would be decent or it is appropriate to inform the team about this delay. So this is absolutely unprofessional and unacceptable. So false statement. Right, collecting numbers on cost, man-hour, and budget to track progress, project progress is part of project monitoring. True or false? Mhm, mhm. Yes, this is a true statement, right? Because project monitoring, what we do in project monitoring, we collect information. So collecting number of costs, man-hour, and budget to track the project progress is what we do in project monitoring. So this is a true statement. Number 4, a sustainability expert in your team made an error in calculating energy savings that resulted in 3 days delay in ordering the lighting system for your project. In this case, it would be wise for the project manager to replace this expert by hiring a new person. Who think this is a true statement? So when I was taking this, conducting this another workshop session, a student suggested that we fired a new person, and in fact, I think even closed down the project. I don't know what he was thinking, but don't do that. Um, in this situation, it is quite common that there are some companies who act like that. So that is very true. But ideally, we should not not fire this expert. Couple of points for that. First of all, it is unethical. Like anyone can make human errors, right? So instead of firing the person, it will be wise to just sit down with the person and kind of reflect on why this error occurred and how this kind of errors can be avoided or rectified in the future. So that is the ideal thing that we need to do um, ethically. And also apart from ethical reason, again, I always tell you guys to think in terms of time and money. So imagine if you fire this person, if you hire a new person, then you will need some time to train this new person, right? So it will cost you additional time. And apart from that, firing someone, you might have to give a payout to that person, and again hiring someone new. So this recruitment process and all of those, again, it's additional time and additional money. So apart from being unethical, it is also not good for the project in terms of time and money, right? So don't do this if you become a project manager in future. Be a little considerate, right? So this is a false statement. All right, so the next statement that we have is the project manager, Mr. Smith, wants to control his project well and therefore goes to the workstation of each of his team members to discuss project updates twice a week, so 2 times in a week, okay? Sometimes he even navigates through their folders to check the numbers and design drawings. Mr. Smith's way of management is very efficient. What do you think? Why is it false? Mhm. Any reason why do you think this is false? What is the term for this micromanaging, right? So I'm going to give you guys, just hang on, a link. If this is working. So if you want to learn more about micromanagement, sorry, it seems like this link is not working. Just hang on. Yes. If you want to read more about micromanagement, then you can go to this website, and it's a fun. So it's okay to visit them periodically during the week, but delegating is important. Yes. Ideally, we have discussed this before as well. So ideally, the frequency should be bi-weekly, that is once in 2 weeks. And also, yes, it is all right to have frequent meetings, maybe once a week. But it is not okay to just poke into others' business, going through their folders and all of those. So in that way, the project manager will kind of lose trust, and having trust within your team members is very important. So if he is just poking nose in others' business and trying to micromanage everything, then the team will feel like they are not independent, and also they are not being trusted upon. So there is something that the project manager will have to balance. So managing them efficiently without micromanaging them. So yeah, if you want to know more about micromanagement, you can go to this link and have a look at it. All right, number 6, the project manager should offer specifics of business objectives and goals at the commencement of the project. Meaning, the project manager is expected to have some kind of experience and expertise, yes, about the project, yes. Yes, so true statement. Now, number 7, the project manager must be an expert in all technical aspects of the project. Oh, that he can guide the technical experts to the team. So this is a false statement. So these two statements this is true and this is false, because the project manager is expected to have some kind of technical expertise and experience regarding the project. But if you see here, it says that all technical aspects. But yeah, so this is a false statement, because the project manager is expected to have some technical experience, but not all technical, but not in all technical aspects. So this is false and this is true. All right, number 8. Preparing agendas and limiting the attendance to only essential ones are recommended for productive meetings. We kind of talked about this in our first statement. So is it true or false? Yes, it's a true statement, because if we just invite everyone, it's first of all waste of time. They'll be just wasting their time that they could have spent in working. So it's better to have just the team members and team leaders for the meetings. All right, number 9. A weekly project team meeting is scheduled for 1 hour. However, it is found that the meeting generally extends to 2 hours and on some occasions to 3 hours. And this is a good practice, because having extended meetings help to elaborately discuss many issues and challenges on the project. Of course, false, right? So if you do expect a meeting to last for 2 to 3 hours, just schedule it for 2 to 3 hours. It is unprofessional to schedule for 1 hour and go on for 2 to 3 hours. However, in a lot of meetings that I have attended, I have seen that this happens and this is unprofessional, because the other team members might have something else scheduled after the meeting. So it's not a good practice to keep them hold on in this meeting, right? So false statement. All right, last one. Making an adjustment to budget and rescheduling tasks are parts of project control. True or false? Mhm. Yes, true. So what we do in project control is basically we see that how much of what has been planned could be achieved, and if we see that we are lagging behind, then we readjust, reschedule the task, and also because of that, we also might have to readjust the budget. Say for example, you have a project in where you have two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. So by project monitoring, you see that you are having some delays in project in phase 1. So in order to adjust the overall, or in order to finish the project on time, you might have to um, crunch the time of phase 2. And in order to crunch the time, of course, you will have to reschedule the task in phase 2. And how can you crunch the time? So if you initially say the phase 2 requires 10 days, but because of this crunch in time, you want to finish it in 7.5 days. Um, but if you want to finish in 7.5 days, you might have to add additional resources, additional manpower, additional machineries. In order to do that, you will need some money. So you have to readjust the schedule, readjust the budget. So that is what happens in project control, right? So that you can finish the project on time, even if you have some delays in some part of the project. So that's the end of today's workshop. We finished it quite early, actually. So do you guys have any question regarding what we discussed today, apart from the one question that Ellen has? So I'll talk to that about, I will talk to that with Ali. Apart from that, any question? Yes, no, anything? All good. All right. Thank you guys. So as I told you at the beginning of the class, if you want to discuss anything about any of the workshop content that we have covered so far, then I will be available from 2 to 3. So you can come back around 2 p.m. if you want to discuss anything else. If not, then all good. I hope to see you guys again next week. Okay. Have a good weekend, guys. Bye.